The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, thinking they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
So when I was a kid, there was an amazing age accomplishment by George Blanda, who is both the kicker and the backup quarterback for the Raiders. And game after game after game, he would rescue it, either quarterbacking or kicking field goals or both. And at age 43, he was the MVP of the league. Years passed. Age caught up with a lot of great players. There were some age accomplishments. Sonny Jurgensen led the league in passing percentage at age 40. But Father Time is undefeated. However, we saw Tom Brady, and what we saw last night were two 40-somethings coming up big in big spots. The warrior god, as Tony Kornheiser calls Max Scherzer, came up big for the Toronto Blue Jays, and Joe Flacco, kicked to the curb by a bunch of teams, traded in the division. That's how little they thought of him. Comes up huge last night against the Pittsburgh Steelers and leads the Bengals to victory and maybe keeps them in contention long enough so that when Joe Burrow comes back, maybe they can make a late season run. Just really amazing. And you think about Scherzer and what he did for this town in really I think establishing baseball here, because, look, the Nationals moved here in 2005. They were amazingly a 500 team and actually in first place July 4th of their first year. But reality was they were a team that needed to rebuild. They did. They got to a decent point about 2012 where they finally made the playoffs. But when Max Scherzer arrived, this team became contenders. And in 2019, he showed you what kind of chutzpah he has or what he's made of, coming off a neck injury, which prevented him from pitching in Game 6. But come Game 7 in Houston, he shows up on the mound, doesn't have his best stuff, but pitches well enough so the Nationals win the World Series. Now, that's 6 years ago. And at that point, he was in his mid-30s. You didn't know if there were going to be any acts after that. He comes up and he helps the Texas Rangers win the World Series a couple of years ago. And last night, in a big spot for the Toronto Blue Jays, he comes up big. 41 years old. He'd been terrible in the regular season, particularly at the end of the regular season. Let me get to these numbers that he had at the end of this past season. A 9.00 ERA over his final 6 starts, allowing 25 runs and 8 homers in 25 innings. His last start was September 24th. Okay, so it's mid-October. They didn't even put him on the roster against the Yankees. He wasn't even eligible to pitch in that series. But he was not good in his last start. September 24th, he allowed 10 hits in 5 innings. In the start before that, he got knocked out in the first inning of a 20-1 loss to the Kansas City Royals. And then last night, when called upon, he performed. He gave up just 2 runs and 3 hits over 5 2/3, and the Toronto Blue Jays evened things up with the Seattle Mariners winning 8-2. And there was a wonderful Max Scherzer moment. We saw this a few times with Davey Martinez when he was here. But in the 5th inning, John Schneider, who's the manager of the Blue Jays, comes out to the mound with 2 outs and a runner on base after Scherzer had recorded a hard hit to right field. And Scherzer screamed, among other things, at his manager, "I'm good, let's go." And you saw Schneider turn around like a dog that had been smacked on the nose with a newspaper. He quickly went back to the dugout, one of the shortest mound visits in history, which, of course, was noticed on the set of TBS I guess it was Fox. Fox did the game last night. And Derek Jeter, talking to Max Scherzer, of course, mentioned it.
I know just from playing against you all those years, you're the type of pitcher that really feeds off your emotions. So I'm going to ask the question I think everyone wants to know. Talk to me about the extended conversation you had with the manager when he came out to the mound.
Yeah, it was a 2-out situation. I just to check the board. I think I was at 69 or 70 pitches. My arm felt great. 2 outs, and Randy was coming up, and in my head I was going through, kind of in my sequence of how I wanted to pitch Randy, thinking through the situation. And all of a sudden I see Schneid's coming out. It kind of caught me off guard, and that's just where one of those moments where I know I wanted the ball. I knew the situation of the game. I wanted the ball, and I basically told him that in a little bit different language.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, a little bit different language from Max Scherzer. It kind of reminds me of this when who was it? Who was managing the Texas Rangers? Bobby Valentine. Bobby Valentine managing the Rangers, and you have Nolan Ryan. Now, Nolan Ryan, I think at that point was probably about the same age, early 40s, maybe late 30s, and he's having a bad outing. And Bobby Valentine goes out to the mound to, kind of take him out, or at least think about doing that. And this is what he says. Ryan said to him, he said, yeah, I'm stinking it up out here. I'm really bad right now, but I'm better than anything you got in that bullpen. So get the hell off my mound. And that may have not been exactly what Max Scherzer was going to say had his manager gotten as far as the mound, but it was pretty clear that he wasn't coming out, and he managed to get out of the inning, struck out Randy Arozarena on a 79-mile-an-hour curveball, then got 2 outs in the 6th before leaving after 87 pitches. In getting the win, Scherzer became just the 4th starting pitcher of 41 years or older to win a playoff game, joining Roger Clemens, Kenny Rogers, and Dennis Martinez. Became the first pitcher to make a postseason start for 6 organizations. The first one, 2011. And who did he face? The Yankees with Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez. And, helps the Nationals win the World Series in 2019 and helps the Texas Rangers win the World Series in 2023. And who knows? They got a long way to go, but now they go back to Toronto with the series even at 2 games apiece. And, you got to think possibility he's going to get another start if they make it to the World Series, or even, let's see, if it gets to Game 7, you got to think about him, right? I mean, he's been there, done that, and did it again last night. And then we had Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was so lightly regarded by the Cleveland Browns that they traded him in the division to the Cincinnati Bengals. And Mike Tomlin was not happy about that. Mike Tomlin let it be known. It sounded a little bit like whining. You're trading a guy in the division. This is what he said earlier this week in talking about getting ready to play the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Flacco.
To be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feeling.
Well, he was prescient about that because Flacco's got something left in the tank. And with the receivers that he has, he must feel like he's driving a Lamborghini. Flacco last night, 31 of 47, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And he hit Jamar Chase 16 times for 161 yards. That's a franchise record. And it was the 9th game of more than 150 yards receiving in his career, passing Jerry Rice for the second most in the first 5 seasons of his career. And even with that, Chase dropped one right in his hands, and you could see the look on Flacco's face like, what? He dropped that? Really? Dropped that? Remarkable performance last night for Flacco for a team that really needed it. I mean, if they don't win that game, then you're really looking at an uphill climb before Burrow gets back, and the hope is Burrow gets back in mid-December, but who knows? But now the Bengals at 3-4, they've got some room to play with. This was Flacco showing up on Scott Van Pelt's show last night on ESPN.
I hope you have a sense of the fact that you literally had America spellbound. You and Aaron just doing what you both did. I'm asking as simply as I can. How much fun was it to be starring in the role that you played in this incredible football game?
Man, it was a lot of fun to go against Aaron today and the Steelers again. I mean, I've played them so much. They're such a familiar foe. I told Aaron after the game, I don't think I've ever beat him head-to-head. So that was also a lot of fun for me to actually be able to get that done today.
As we're watching the game, me and Damian Woody, who's here every Thursday to do the Thursday Night Football conversation, we were just talking about how I have an appreciation for Zach and all the guys in the room and the plays you can draw up. But, Joe, is it sometimes as simple as saying, I have 1 and I have 5, let's throw it to them? I'm not kidding. Like, how isn't that what you should do?
Yeah, no, for sure. You can't overcomplicate things when you have really good players. You have to be able to just let them go, and we were able to do that tonight.
Last week, when you went up to Green Bay, you went on this monumental drive to start the second half. Am I nuts to say that drive, even though it didn't end up in a win, in your first game there is sort of the beginning of what we saw tonight? I see you nodding your head. Maybe a little?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Just because, when you get some confidence going and it's your first time with the team, that makes a difference. And not only with the players, but the coaches. I think that makes Zach feel comfortable on how he's going to call the game, and he can kind of get an idea for what we're going to be good at. So I do think that was a big drive. I mean, it was like 20 or 21 plays, and that's not how you want to do it all the time. But hopefully we can look back here in a few weeks and point to that for sure.
No, but you got a touchdown on 4th down, and all of a sudden it was a 3-point game, and it was like, wow, are you going to do what you did with Cleveland? No, in the end, but then you win this game. I'm going to get to this game in a minute, but I have to ask you this. What's the play call that comes into your ear that tells you you're keeping it and running? Can you tell me the name of the play?
That was, we didn't – listen, I just talked to the Amazon guys, and there was plenty of plays that I wasn't quite right on and was wondering what Zach was saying. That one was right, but our receivers kind of lined up wrong in terms of who was on the ball and who was off the ball. So I wasn't supposed to do that, but you can see how hard the guy's crashing. We were supposed to have a receiver there to bluff that guy and just hand the ball off. But when we didn't have that, it just kind of naturally happened.
All right, as a guy, Joe, that got to the Unk lane on the highway many years ago, I'm screaming out loud, praying for the hamstring, the Achilles. What goes through your mind as you're galloping through that wide open space trying to get down on the ground?
Yeah, just trying to find enough space, trying to get enough yards and find enough space to get down without getting my head taken off.
Look, everybody's going to laugh. Hey, man, you're out there playing at an elite level. I'm not going to make fun of anything. You got a first down, move the chains. Winning this game, Joe, with a couple of games ahead of the bye, how does this change the calculus in the minds of your group? I mean, it feels like it really lights a fuse from the outside looking in. You've only been there a little while, but give me a sense of that.
Well, listen, I mean, you can only take it one game at a time. But just like we talked about earlier, just gaining some of that confidence and you hope that these guys are excited to, kind of have me come in and hopefully I can come in here and, instill some confidence and get the ball to guys. But then to actually go out there and be able to do it, that's a whole nother level, and that's what you want to see. So hopefully we can really start to rally around what we've been able to do the last, 6 quarters of football and come together as a team and be who we want to.
I appreciate you taking the time. I know you were talking to the folks on Prime, which I get. So thanks for throwing on the headset. On the way out, I have to do this just as a hat tip to you and me doing this for a long, long time. Tim Kirkchin, and there's an NBA coach out there who it's his favorite thing. I just want to say thanks so much, Joe Flacco, for doing what you did tonight. What a show you put on for America. Thank you for taking the time, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, I know Tim's laughing somewhere. I appreciate it.
It's 12:01. Tim's been actually no. Tim was watching the baseball, so maybe he saw this. Seriously, Joe, continue to do what you're doing, man. It's a blast to watch. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Scott Van Pelt with Joe Flacco, and SVP does that accent, which for whatever reason just drives Kirk into hysterics. He covered the Orioles for a long time, so maybe got used to the Baltimore, South Jersey accent. The accent you're hearing there from Flacco, that's very similar to Gary Williams, and the reason for that is they're from the same hometown. Yeah, Collingswood, New Jersey, and Flacco just going from team to team to team and doing his thing. And 2 years ago, he did this for Cleveland. He got them into the playoffs. They didn't re-sign him because, and I even forgot his name now, the guy that's been a complete bust for them. They didn't want him to get nervous, so he goes off and goes to the Colts, comes back to the Browns this year, and the Browns aren't going anywhere, so they trade him to Cincinnati, and he may do for Cincinnati what he did for Cleveland, and if he does, he may take a seat once Joe Burrow is back. But what a hero he would be for Cincinnati if he can somehow keep them in contention until Burrow gets back. As for Jamar Chase, I mean, this is just astounding what he's doing. And if you watched him last night, especially the one he dropped, is just unbelievable because of the way he plays and just catches everything. But he did catch 16 passes last night for over 100 yards. He is just the second receiver in NFL history to have 100-yard receiving games with 3 different starting quarterbacks through the first 7 games of the season. And you look at the group, Joe Burrow, who's taken a team to a Super Bowl, if he manages to stay healthy, may wind up in the Hall of Fame, number one pick of the draft. Jake Browning, who's at best a journeyman, and Flacco, who's won a Super Bowl but won't get to the Hall of Fame, but at age 40 just keeps going and going and going and doing his thing. The other receiver to do this, and this is fascinating to me, the other one to pull this off, 3 different quarterbacks, 3 different 100-yard receiving games, Jimmy Smith, who did it with Jacksonville in 1997. One of the quarterbacks was Mark Brunell, who was, a longtime starter in Jacksonville and a good quarterback, played here. The other one was Rob Johnson, who wound up here as a backup for a little while. The third quarterback in this, and I thought this was a typo. I thought they meant Shane Matthews. No, it was Steve Matthews, who played only 3 games in his entire NFL career. 3 games. But one of them, he threw for 100 yards to Jimmy Smith. So this is certainly impressive by Jamar Chase, no question about it. But the trio of quarterbacks that he has, I would take Burrow, Flacco, and Jake Browning over the trio of Rob Johnson, Steve Matthews, not Steve Matthews Band, but Steve Matthews quarterback, and Mark Brunell. So just an amazing, amazing performance last night by Joe Flacco and Max Scherzer, for that matter, who was El Stinko during the regular season, so bad that they didn't even put him on the playoff roster against the Yankees. A longer series here. They bring him in. Maybe going to use him in relief, spot start. Maybe he goes, 3 or 4 innings to get you going. No, pitched great last night. Got the win. Blue Jays back in the series, all even as they head back to Toronto. Coming up, we'll deal with what Joe Witt said about his defense, which is really struggling, and also the offense, which, is not scoring a lot of points either. And you got the possibility that there will be a 4th straight missed game by Terry McLaurin. We'll get to that and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
So I really want to like Joe Witt. Don't know him, shook hands with him once, have watched most of his news conferences, have watched him coach from the press box. He doesn't coach down on the field. You want to like the guy. And in this business, he's a great soundbite, as we say. His news conferences are good. And they're interesting to listen to. And I pull what we call sound bites from them every single week. And when he talks like this, from what you learn about football growing up as a kid, about what an emotional sport it is, and, the legendary pregame locker room speeches, the Newt Rockne speech, the whole thing, coaches who talk this way are seemingly celebrated in the sport. Now, not everybody's like this. Joe Gibbs was not a great locker room orator, but he had great success. Bill Walsh, same thing. These guys were geniuses when it came to designing offenses and getting their teams ready to play. They were great CEOs of their team, but they didn't necessarily have great sound bites. Herm Edwards had great sound bites. You play to win the game. He didn't win enough. Mike Singletary, can't win with him. Great soundbite. Didn't win. Joe Witt, not a head coach, defensive coordinator, handpicked by Dan Quinn, who was a good defensive coordinator himself, and had Witt on his staff with him in Dallas and took him here when he became the head coach as the defensive coordinator. And while the defense has looked good at times, they are not performing well. And the defense could realistically be downright bad this year. There's the over-under for this game coming up. Now, Dallas's defense we know is bad, but their offense is terrific, and they're going to get C.D. Lamb back for this game. The over-under for Sunday is 55.5. That's the highest point total in the league this year, 55.5. You've seen what was a 40-40 tie between Dallas and Green Bay. Green Bay's got a good defense, and they hung 40 on them, but they also gave up 40 points. So, when I hear Joe Witt talk like this about a team that is not doing the two things that he's been preaching since he got here, create turnovers and avoid explosive plays, I want to believe in him. I really do.
It's hard. Nobody said this was going to be easy, but we'll get it done. That if we're going to walk around here with a negative cloud on us, which we're not, which I'm not, because that's not productive. All right, we're going to work at it. We're going to try to find ways. We're going to be creative. And but at the end of the day, we got to win. All this lip service and talking that I'm doing, if we don't win, it don't really matter. All right, so we got to win. The fun in football is winning. And I understand the fans, they're passionate, and that's how they should be. All right, they should be passionate about these Commanders, and we got to do a better job, period.
Yeah. No question about that, and you want to hear him say that, but you also want to see it show up on the field. And the explosive plays that he's saying is killing this team, yes, they are killing this team. This is from the Joe Shad story in the Washington Post today. Washington gave up 9 explosive plays in a 25-24 loss to the Bears, according to True Media, which defines an explosive play as a run of 12 yards or more or a pass exceeding 16 yards. Through 6 weeks, only the Dolphins and Bills have allowed more explosive plays at a higher rate than the Commanders, which is 12.3%. Of the 31 drives in which the opposing offense has hit one or more explosive play, about 70% have resulted in either a touchdown or a field goal. And the explosive plays, which Washington has allowed 46, 32 through the air and 14 on the ground. This is a problem. And they're not creating turnovers. They were 0-3, I guess you could call it, or 3 turnovers created by Chicago last week, none created by Washington. Their -3 turnover margin is in the bottom third of the league. And Witt has been preaching that as well. Take the damn ball away. Well, they're not doing that. What can be done about it?
We got to do a better job as coaches and exposing them in the drills. We had 2 in our hands that we dropped. Okay, so why are we dropping them? All right, are we giving them those type of tips and overthrows type balls in practice enough? Are we giving the linebackers the drive throws when they have to fall back when they're in different spacings? We have to make sure as coaches that we expose to guys, because I'm a firm believer of when we expose them, when they understand it, they gonna make the plays. You know what I'm saying? So we'll do a better job of that.
Yeah, coaches love practice, and you hope that practice translates to the field. But the reality is they're not doing the 2 things that he says they have to do: stop the explosive play and create turnovers. Not doing that, and now they're facing whatever you want to say about the Dallas defense, and it's not good. But the Dallas offense, as he points out here, it's smoking with Dak Prescott.
I just see him really getting the ball out of his hand really quick. He plays with great anticipation. His back foot's hitting the ground, the ball's coming out. He can elude people in the pocket. He can make every throw. He's faster and stronger than people really give him credit for. And then when you have CD and Pickens on the outside, and not only them, you have the running back that doesn't allow you to place a lot of cover 2 against them, because the running back can run through tackles. So the combination of all 3 makes it very, very difficult to put hats over the top of those guys outside. And then once they get the ball, CD is like a running back once he gets the ball in his hand.
Yeah, Cowboys are averaging 387.5 yards, and their second-ranked passing offense is averaging 5 explosive plays per game. Pickens, 525 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. And with C.D. Lamb back this week, that is bad news. On the other side, you got the offense, which has been great with Cliff Kingsbury, and the overall picture is bright with number 5 back there. As long as you have Jaden Daniels, you have a chance to win. But you don't have a chance to win if you turn the ball over 3 times. It just doesn't work for you. And then you got this running back who can be terrific, Bill Krosky-Merritt. When he hangs on to the ball, he makes things happen, and you wouldn't expect it from his size, but he's a terrific inside runner. Problem is fumbles. Now, you had Daniels take the blame for the third one, which really was the one that cost him a game. I think they hang on to the ball there. They're going to be able to close it out against Chicago. But Bill also had one that was totally on him. And so here's Cliff Kingsbury, wants him in the game. He did have more carries last Monday than he'd had in any game all year. He had 17 carries. The week before, he had only 11 and averaged 7.9 yards a carry. But if you're going to give him the ball, you run the risk of him fumbling the football. And you want to give him playing time. You want him out there. But you also know he's a rookie, and he is right now dealing with the worst thing a running back can deal with, is fumbling the football. And so Kingsbury was asked, how do you do this? You want him there, but also you're nervous about putting him out there because he turns the ball over.
Yeah, there's a fine line to walk. I think that's, we're bottom part of the league right now in turnover margin, and that's really holding us back from kind of taking that next step, I think, as a team. And Bill knows he has to protect the football. I mean, that's first and foremost when you talk about running back responsibilities, and I think he'll continue to get better, continue to learn. And I've said it, from the beginning, each game is a new experience for him, and he's going to learn from and take away. And that's 2 weeks in a row that he's put on the ground, and he knows the expectation moving forward is that can't happen.
Yeah. So that's the quickest way to get yourself out of the league as a running back is to turn the football over. As far as receiving goes, very disappointing news this week that Noah Brown is going on injured reserve. Means he's going to miss the next 4 games. He's already missed 40, so he's missed 4 games. So he's going to miss like half the season here, at least. And then you got Terry McLaurin, who was re-signed in the offseason after saying, hey, I never get hurt. I've gone the last 5 years without missing a game. Well, it looks like right now he's going to miss his 4th straight game. He did go through the walkthrough the other day when they went through it on, was it Wednesday, right? Yeah, and yesterday he was not out on the field. Now, we haven't heard from Dan Quinn on his playing status. We're gonna find out more about that today. But if they don't have him, this is what they're left with at wide receiver. Jalen Lane, who's a rookie, Luke McCaffrey, who's in his 2nd year, and really isn't anywhere near a number 1 receiver. He's a guy who returns kicks. You want to play him in the slot a little bit, and he's going to be like a complimentary guy. And then Chris Moore, who I was surprised made the team. He couldn't catch a cold in the preseason. He's had drops. He had a drop the other night. He had a drop touchdown the week before. He did make a couple of catches, but if that's your receiving core, that's a real problem. And on top of that, the way practices work, the first team gets most of the rep. So these are all backup guys. And so they really even haven't practiced much with Jaden Daniels. Here's Kingsbury.
That, more than anything, is if guys aren't practicing during the week or you haven't been able to consistently work with a guy throughout training camp, throughout the season, it's not easy when the pressure's on and the lights are on to get on the same page. But like I said, I think they've done a great job, and Jaden's done a tremendous job of kind of lifting the group up and has the guys playing at a high level.
They have a few guys on the practice squad, but they're so thin that they have signed Traylon Burks. He was once a first-round draft pick at Tennessee, but by and large a disappointment. 2022 first-round pick. He caught 53 passes in parts of 3 seasons for Tennessee, and coming here this week, I don't know how much of a factor if he's even going to be active for the game on Sunday in Dallas. So pie in the sky. Terry McLaurin makes a miraculous recovery, comes back and plays, but you're playing with Deebo Samuel, who's got a bad heel. He didn't practice last week. Gave him some big catches. Zach Ertz has been healthy, and after not catching a pass the week before, and the week before that only 1 or 2. He did have 6 catches, but that's a real problem without Terry McLaurin. And this is the big fear when you sign a guy to that huge contract. Not that they're up against the salary cap, but he's eaten up a lot of money, and not on the field, and that's a real problem for the offense. The pleasant surprise, and by and large, the drafts that took place under Ron Rivera were awful, terrible. But there's a couple of linemen who have come through. Sam Cosmi, and keep your fingers crossed on him because he has not played all year because of the knee injury he suffered last year in the playoffs against Detroit. But each week they say he's getting closer and closer. I would not be surprised to see him out on the field on Sunday. And then, if you haven't been paying attention, playing next to Laramie Tunsil, and you haven't heard much about Laramie Tunsil either because he's done a good job of protecting the blind side, but playing next to him, and they run the ball over the left side as they did during the glory days of Riggins, running over 68 and 66, Russ Grimm and Joe Jacoby. They're having success running the ball on that side, and one of the big reasons is Chris Paul, who was a 2022 seventh-round pick out of Tulsa. He spent some time on the practice squad, up and down, and this year he's become a full-time starter and has been a huge contributor. Here's Kingsbury on that.
He's a guy who, from day one, us getting here till now, I mean, it looks like a completely different human. Just the way he plays, he's changed his body, really got in shape, and he's just a physical presence for us in the run game. In the pass game, if he gets his hands on you, he's really hard to get around, and then just he's one of the best communicators I've ever been around on the O-line, really talking through things, talking through protections and run game and points and things of that nature. So the O-line really appreciates that about him, and so he's just been a real pleasant surprise actually this season to see him step up, and that left side with him and LT has really helped us run the football well at times.
Yeah, that's a pleasant surprise and one that they really needed. So Chris Paul moving into that left guard spot, making a difference this year. Commanders had dropped down to 1.5-point favorites, now back up to 2.5, 4:25 kickoff on Sunday in Dallas. Let me jump back to baseball here for a second. Meant to mention this the other day, the comments that Dave Dombrowski, who's the general manager of the Phillies, made about Bryce Harper. Hard to believe this because, I think of Bryce Harper on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was a high school junior. Yeah. and he was, pretty much hyped when Sports Illustrated was a bigger deal, in the same way that LeBron James was. LeBron James winding up on the cover of Sports Illustrated going into his senior year of high school. Whoa, who is this guy? The chosen one. What are you talking about? And here we are all these years later, and LeBron James is still playing and lived up to the hype, certainly lived up to the hype on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Bryce Harper has been a terrific player. He's been an MVP, but has not yet won a World Series. He came here and was a terrific player here, but not good enough to get him over the hump. One of the lasting images is of him getting choked in the dugout by Jonathan Papelbon, and nobody really running to his defense. I don't know how well he was liked here. Then he goes to the Phillies, and basically because of Juan Soto more than anything else, they gave him an offer of $300 million, and they said, well, we like you, and we know you're going to get a lot more money. But, if you want to come here, it's $300 million. And they knew he wasn't going to take it. They had He had Scott Boras, still has him as his agent. And they shopped around until they finally got the money to be the highest ever. And that didn't last long because Mike Trout got like $100 million more a year later. But he did get, at the time, the highest deal ever. The previous high was $325 million by Giancarlo Stanton. They got it up to $330 million over 13 years. I think the Nationals' offer might have been $300 over 10, if I'm not mistaken. So it was more money per year, but they got the most money, which is what they wanted. And he's been loved in Philadelphia. He's made them a perennial playoff team, but he's now 33 years old, and he's coming off a tough season. His OPS was lowest since 2016, 844. He had 261. That was his lowest batting average since 2019, which, by the way, was his first year in Philadelphia. And in the divisional series against the Dodgers, he was 3 for 15, didn't drive in any runs in the 4 games. And so Dombrowski, the GM, talking about him, says he's still a quality player. He's still an all-star player. but he didn't have an elite season like he's had in the past. I guess we can only find out if he becomes elite or continues to be good. Just good? Can he rise to the next level? I really don't know that answer, Dombrowski said. He's one that will dictate that more than anyone else. I don't think he's content with the year he had. Again, it wasn't a bad year, but when I think of Bryce Harper, you think elite and you think one of the top 10 players in baseball. I don't think it fit into that category. Whoa. Now, some of that may be negotiation. I don't know, because there was talk a couple of years ago, he was playing so well that they were going to tear up the contract of $330 million, give him even more money. Because, now that guys like Juan Soto are making twice as much. But I guess that's Dombrowski saying, forget that. We're not going to do that for him. He's 33 years old, and he hasn't delivered when it was most important. He has not delivered in the postseason. So with 6 years left on that $330 million deal, they're going to pay it, of course. That's all guaranteed in baseball. But Harper, who famously said when they got Max Scherzer here before the 2015 season, dude, where's my ring? Not only was not on a playoff team that year, left here after 2018, not getting close to a ring. And now he's 33. He's aging. Not that he couldn't play well for another 5 or 6 years, but where's the ring? It's not happening. The Dodgers are dominating the National League. Dodgers are in position to put away put away the Brewers, and they can do it. I think, is it tonight? Yeah, it's tonight. Tonight is Game 4. They can complete the sweep, and the Phillies are home again for the winter. So Bryce Harper, you wouldn't say has been a disappointment, but he has not been the LeBron of baseball. He has not. And now you got the GM of the Phillies questioning whether he's just good or is he great. We haven't seen him be great recently, and kind of challenging him, or making way for the possibility that maybe they're going to deal him. Maybe somebody would be interested in picking up the last 5 or 6 years of that deal, because at that price, it's not so outlandish anymore. That's probably a good price for what you can get from him. Coming up, we'll do more on the Commanders as they get ready to play in Dallas on Sunday, and some college football stuff and a big college football weekend. We should all have happened to our bank accounts what has happened to Curt Cignetti in 2 years. $667,000. Yeah, that's a lot of money. That's a nice salary. You can live well on that. You can live better on $11.5 million. And that's how much his income has jumped in less than 2 seasons. Absolutely remarkable, but that's the state of college football. And the biggest favor that Curt Cignetti got was when James Franklin was fired last Sunday by Penn State. The rising tide, or in this case, the lowering tide, has lifted this boat. And this boat is riding high in October. We'll see if he's shot down in December or January. You never know. But, man, it is a good time to be a college football coach. And who knew that at Indiana, which is one of the biggest basketball schools in the country, Bobby Knight, 3 national championships. The school has won 5 national titles. That football is king right now. And the king of college football is this 62-year-old guy who looks like an accountant, makes people angry when he talks because he's got a swagger to him. He says, Google me, I win, and he does. But, man, with the gold rush that is going on for college football coaches right now is absolutely incredible. And speaking of things that you would not expect, if going into this week of the NFL, and I'd be surprised if it doesn't hold, but in the first game of the week, this is how the schedule works now. It's Thursday night football. Cincinnati playing at Pittsburgh. 2 Ulta-Cocker quarterbacks. Okay, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to the Hall of Fame. And he has played well this year, and he is the hope of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Cincinnati Bengals, getting the retread of retread quarterbacks in Joe Flacco, not good enough to start for the Cleveland Browns, steps in and delivers what could be the biggest passing performance of the week. 31 of 47, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And Jamar Chase, of course, a big help with that. And even with a drop, set a franchise record with 16 catches. 16 catches for 161 yards and a touchdown. And it was his 9th game with more than 150 yards in his career, passing Jerry Rice for the second most in the first 5 seasons of an NFL career. So if you go into this week and you say, oh, yeah, the biggest passing combination of the week is going to be Joe Flacco. Okay, Jamar Chase, you understand that. But Jamar Chase doesn't have Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is watching on the sidelines with his foot in a boot. No, Joe Flacco, who was sent to Cincinnati, and the only one who really perked up about this was Mike Tomlin, coach of the Steelers, who was angry that the Browns had traded Flacco within the division. Most of us said, well, yeah, okay, but it's like it's like giving your used car to a charity. It's like, okay, fine. But, man, he was no charity case last night. So after the two of them lit it up in Cincinnati, they showed up on the post-game show, the Amazon Prime crew, to bask in the glory of this comeback win. They had blown the lead, but they come back to win 33-31 on Evan McPherson's 36-yard field goal with 7 seconds to go. And this was Flacco and Chase sitting together.
How does this one feel for you? Describe it for us.
Oh, geez. I don't have a good answer for you. Man, it was a lot of fun. I mean, you hope that you can just kind of ride off into the sunset and win this like 37-24 and not have to do what we did at the end. But when you kind of pop out behind the line of scrimmage and you see this guy wide open, then that's not too bad either.
Yeah, Jamar, man, 16 catches, career high tonight. Talk to me about Joe Flacco, man. What's it been having him here, bringing that confidence back to this offense?
Honestly, it's fun having him, man. He came in, knew what he was doing right from jump. Honestly, having a veteran quarterback is probably the easiest thing they could have done for us. Him coming in and adapting with ease, no problem for us.
Joe, when you play with a lot of great receivers in your league, but when you come to this locker room, you got Jamar, you got T. Higgins. Where do these guys rank in terms of raw talent and trust?
It's funny. After last week's game, it wasn't even like we did anything crazy, but I was on the phone with my dad. I was on the phone with a couple of my brothers, and we were just laughing at like how absurd they are. and I think for me, it was the simple things that you don't even like realize is super impressive. But they caught a couple balls that like a lot of guys would go to the ground for and catch with their chest, and they were just plucking it out of the air. I didn't get like the ball great on a quick out last week in Green Bay, and I threw like one of the biggest ducks I've ever thrown, and he just both ends of the ball, and it was just crazy. It was these simple things. I'm telling you, we were sitting there just laughing hysterically about how good they are.
I bet you were. I know Pittsburgh wasn't laughing hysterically, but you said something about Raw this week in an interview leading up to this game. You said, hey, you thought they'd come in here and want to be really bullies.
I think he said raw dog.
Raw dog. That's what it. And was that reverse psychology? Because it kind of looked like you were raw dog.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I mean, let's just say I wasn't the one,
Oh, there we go.
So that's what it appeared. Killing him.
But it happened, man. It ain't coming out like that. But other than that, man, we know what it is with them. Good, hard fight. It's going to always be tough, physical game. But we got to find a way.
But you got busy in other ways. Like you showed a different kind of effort. Chase was running with the football. You showed an unreal effort to get out there and block for him. Talk about what it means to you, regardless of record, regardless of everything, how much you're making. You go out there and show leadership.
Yeah. Man, I want to win, man. Everybody know I'm a winner. I always want to win. This most year I've been like vocal. So like everything that I say, I got to do it 10 times more. You know what I'm saying? Especially when the guy's looking up to me. So as much effort as I got to put in, I got to give it away.
Joe, we keep talking about your throwing. We keep talking about the balls to the sideline, Jamar, his performance. You called your own number. You have the old. Can you walk us through the play where somehow you did a little zone read, pulled it, and ran for 10 and a first down?
So listen, there was a handful of plays today that I was like, what is he saying? We have these formations that end in F, and I was not getting it. That one, I read off my wristband. It was correct. Jamar lined up on the ball. Noah lined up off. Jamar was supposed to be off the ball. He was supposed to counter motion and bluff that end.
Yeah.
And when he was on the ball and the play clock was running down, I was like, screw it. I was just going to hand it off, but he came off the edge so to him quick. I was like, all right, I haven't done this since my probably first or second year, but I'll do it now.
I was in tears when you took so
good. It felt good. It felt good. I can't lie.
Yeah, Joe Flacco, 40 years old, running for a first down. He made a nice slide, too. Made a slide just in time, but got the first down. Here's the reality of the Bengals. You leave them for dead on the side of the road when they lose 4 straight, even, after getting Flacco, really didn't have time to learn the offense. But now at 3-4, because remember that they won their opener, second game Burrow got hurt, but they still won. So now at 3-4, what looked like might be not possible, when Joe Burrow comes back. Now you look at what's ahead. They do have another home game coming up. They've got the Jets. That'll be a week from Sunday. Then they're home against the Bears on November 2nd. They go to Pittsburgh on the 16th. I mean, can they win at Pittsburgh? Well, they beat them last night. Who knows? New England's better this year, but they get them at home. They're at Baltimore, and that's Thanksgiving weekend, and Baltimore is on the brink right now. They look terrible at 1-5, and who knows what they're going to look like at the end of next month. And then, the stretch run, they're at Buffalo on December 7th. They got another game with Baltimore, and that's at home on the 14th. They're at Miami. Miami stinks. And then either that game, which is December 21st, or December 28th against Arizona, which is not very good, they could have Joe Burrow back. And then they finish up the season with the Cleveland Browns, who are dead. So, right now, it's you can't put everything on this one game, but at 3-4, it looks a lot different than 2-5. And with the schedule I just read to you, those are winnable games with Joe Flacco. And Flacco did this before with the Cleveland Browns just 2 years ago. So everything has changed. And Mike Tomlin was apparently spot on in being angry about the fact that he got traded in the division. Not illegal. And then, we had that here. It didn't work out the way that they wanted it to, but Donovan McNabb was traded in the division, but that was Dan Snyder doing the trading. And usually when he did the trading, he got fleeced. And Andy Reid knew that Michael Vick was going to be his quarterback, so he traded him here. In Cleveland's case, they're just looking for the draft next year. And actually, Flacco might have gotten in the way of that. And he also doesn't have in Cleveland the receivers that he's got here in Cincinnati. And just a great performance last night. Also talked about this earlier. In fact, I'll play this again. I played this at 9 o'clock. But Max Scherzer, who was terrible at the end of the regular season. If anybody looked dead, not dead, but done. Dead's a bad word. Max Scherzer, 41 years old. This is how he finished the regular season. He had a 9.00 ERA over his final 6 starts. He gave up 25 runs and 8 homers in 25 innings. In his last start, September 24th, he allowed 10 hits in 5 innings. In the start before that, he got knocked out in the first inning of a 20-1 loss to the Kansas City Royals. They did not put him on the roster for the series against the Yankees. They put him on the roster here. He gives up 2 runs and 3 hits over 5 2/3. Blue Jays win the game 8-2, and there was a wonderful sequence there. And Davey Martinez went through this a couple of times with the Nats, but that's 5-6 years ago. Before that, this is now an old pitcher. He's in the 5th inning. John Schneider goes to the mound with 2 outs and a runner on base after Scherzer had given up a single to right field, and Scherzer screams, among other things, "I'm good, let's go." And Schneider, like a dog smacked on the nose, did an about-face, ran back to the dugout, one of the shortest mound visits in history. Schneider, after the game, laughed about it. He said, "It was awesome. I thought he was going to kill me." He looked at me with those eyes, the 2-color eyes that he has as I walked out. It's not fake. That's the thing. It's not fake. He had this Mad Max persona, and he backed it up tonight, which he did. He got out Randy Arozarena on a strikeout and then left in the 6th inning after giving up a 2-out walk and throwing 87 pitches. This was Derek Jeter, part of the postgame crew on Fox, talking to Max about what he did and what happened in that fifth inning when he got the mound visit from his manager.
I know just from playing against you all those years, you're the type of pitcher that really feeds off your emotions. So I'm going to ask the question I think everyone wants to know. Talk to me about the extended conversation you had with the manager when he came out to the mound.
Yeah, it was a two-out situation. I just had checked the board. I think I was at 69 or 70 pitches. My arm felt great. 2 outs, and Randy was coming up, and in my head I was going through, kind of in my sequence of how I wanted to pitch Randy, thinking through the situation, and all of a sudden I see Schneid's coming out, and it kind of caught me off guard, and that's just where one of those moments where I know I wanted the ball. I knew the situation of the game. I wanted the ball, and I basically told him that in a little bit different language.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I think the language was a little bit different. So Scherzer at 41, he's won a World Series with Washington. He's won one with Texas, and maybe is in line to win a third. But the Dodgers, man, the Dodgers are rolling right now. And they won again last night, beating the Brewers 3-1. This was the postgame show. Adam Lefko and Pedro Martinez, with Lefko starting, as Hubie Brown would say, with a staggering stat.
I got handed a stat from Underdog. And there are times where I get handed a stat and I go, there's no way this is real. Milwaukee has 9 hits in the series. That ties the fewest hits through 3 games, the first 3 games of any series all time, with the Chicago White Sox in the 1906 World Series against the Chicago Cubs. Do the math, Pedro. That's 101 years. Actually, it's not. It's, what is that, 111 years.
It's close enough.
Insane.
111?
109.
You know what I can say about that? Is that's
119.
119,
oh,
brother.
My goodness.
It's okay. How dominant the Dodgers pitching
Unbelievable.
is being. And you can't give teams like the Dodgers extra outs, but, man, they have worked their tail off to keep the Milwaukee Brewers where they are and take them all the way back to those years to actually come up with this kind of stats. The Dodgers have been great. They're fresh. Their starting pitcher seems to be the best I've seen in the last 8 years. And their bullpen, no words to describe how good they have been. And now they're also fresh because the starters have been able to go deep into the games. So the more they rest at this time of the year, the better they're going to feel going down the stretch.
Pedro Martinez and Adam Lefko, like most people who talk for a living, terrible at math. Yeah, 1906 was 119 years ago. Not 101, not 111, no, 119. Probably should have known that, but either way, it was a long time ago. Dodgers, as great as they were winning the World Series in 5 last year, not as great a year as you might have expected. Regular season, 93 wins, but in the postseason, they have been unbeatable. 9 games, they've lost only once. And they have held the Brewers to 3 runs in 27 innings in this series. And guess who's pitching tonight to close it out? Shohei Ohtani. What a story. And Shohei has not been good. Now, he had a triple last night and scored the first run. But what is he, 3 for 29 since the wild card round. So he's struggling. We'll see what he does on the mound. But the Dodgers are attempting to get back to the World Series and repeat. The last team to do that was the Yankees at the end of the 20th century. And before the Dodgers, the Yankees were the last defending champs to win 8 of their first 9 postseason games. The last defending champions to take a 3-0 lead in the best-of-7 series, according to ESPN research. They're also the last team since the 96 Atlanta Braves, headlined by Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and John Smoltz, to allow no more than a run in 4 consecutive playoff games. So they look unbeatable, and you wouldn't think with Shohei having a series like this, where he was spectacular last year, and at the plate 3 for 29, that they would be this dominant, but the pitching's been this dominant, and we'll see if he can keep it going tonight as he attempts to close it out for the Dodgers. All right, Bram is coming up next. Commanders play on Sunday, and I will be back with a recap of that and more on Monday at 9 a.m.